Okay, so welcome to session 3 of our Smoke and Snow game. When last we left our heroes, they had fled from the seemingly undead warriors who lurked in the ruins of Witch Isle. They'd made it back to the bank of the lake and were considering their next move. However, we're now going to cut back to the village of New Sealand, where a young, stout gentleman is setting out to try and track down the heroes. Colin, describe for us what Leopold Stavish looks like.
Well, Leopold Stavish is a dwarven prospector. He's had a good education in mine engineering and such things. He's your solid archetypal dwarf, really. Pushing into the frontier, well, back into the frontier, I should say. Looking to make a name for himself, or to continue the family, the Stavish name. He's got that typical sturdy look. He's got the air of confidence that you'd expect for someone that's got experience in the outdoors and ploughing their own furrow. And the frontier is full of promise and potential for making his fortune, and he's keen to push on and see what fate has in store for him. He's not intimidated easily, but finds it somewhat hard to make friends. Not a loner, but maybe a little bit. Maybe he is a little bit blunt and to the point at times.
Okay.
Which can be off-putting to some. He doesn't couch his words in flowery phrases and stuff. He's to the point and direct. So,
okay.
yeah, that's about the size of it.
Okay, now to bring you up to speed, over the last week or so, since the small boat carrying the settlers who founded the village of New Sealand, of which you yourself were one, arrived on the shores of Valconan, there have been a number of troubling events. A small group of people from the village were sent out by the village elder to travel to a settlement, like a day's travel to the west over the Great River. This other settlement had volunteered to help provide some supplies to see your settlement through the winter, effectively. However, when the group that was sent out returned, they brought back grim news that the settlement had been destroyed, apparently by some form of bizarre bear-like creature. They also brought back a singular survivor with them. Over the next few days, unfortunately, one of the eldest residents of the village, who was an elderly woman who made wigs, she passed away of natural causes. The survivor from Castlemaine seemed extremely nervous of this, and he explained that when they'd had an accident while they were chopping some wood that had killed a couple of villagers in their village, and they'd buried them, as was the custom. However, when the hours of darkness fall, those two people had risen from their graves and had started shambling northwards out of the village of Castlemaine. When one of the villagers attempted to stop these ambulatory corpses, they slew him, and as he fell to the ground dead, he also rose up, and his corpse continued to follow them north. And after that, they didn't interfere, but from that day, they burnt all of their dead to stop it from happening again. With this news passed on to the rest of the player characters, they watched the body of the old woman who'd passed away. And sure enough, as night fell, the corpse rose to its feet and began to shamble north out of the village of New Zealand. Using like rope, it seemed like not sort of to be able to sense what was going on, it just seemed to be focused on going north. They were able to basically rope it to a tree to stop it from moving. Unfortunately, the priest of the village sort of got in the way and obviously didn't believe the woman was quite dead, and he was slain by the corpse, at which point obviously he rose from the dead and also tried going north. The rest of this group said that they were going to follow, so keeping basically this ambulatory corpse on a leash, they were going to follow it north to see where it led them, and that is the last you have seen of them as they have left the village. However, despite the village of Castlemaine, which I'll try and ping on the map, which I shall move you guys onto. Let's take off the splash screen and get you onto that proper map.
Castlemaine's just over the river, isn't it?
It is. It's just over the river to the west, and as soon as the map loads on my screen, I will focus the map there. So just give me a second. So your map should now be centered on the ruins of Castlemaine, and you can see your token just to the east, which is where your home village is. Now, despite Castlemaine having been apparently abandoned and everyone killed, as far as you're aware, by whatever strange creature was lurking in the ruins of the settlement, obviously the people of New Zealand have been keeping a close watch in case such devastating and horrible creatures should emerge from the whale song forest to the west and attempt to menace your own settlement. Recently, smoke has been seen over the last day or two. Smoke has been seen rising from the settlement of Castlemaine, or rather the ruins of Castlemaine. Not wanting to risk a lot of villagers, and obviously with the most proficient members having travelled to the north following these corpses, you, Leopold, have been sent out to try and locate these brave adventurers from New Zealand and let them know that the ruins of Castlemaine appear to be active and they need looking into. So, as you set out travelling north to try and track down this group, the weather is starting to steadily get worse. A strong wind is blowing down from the glaciers of the north, bringing the freezing cold of winter, even though we're at the start of summer with it. Snow and sleet begin to fall, slowly at first as you travel north, but gradually getting heavier and heavier. Over the course of a number of days, you travel north and you arrive at the base of a series of hills. You know just from talk and from what you've heard that just beyond this lies a large lake, and at the centre of the lake is reputed to be an island known as Witch Isle, and all manner of unwholesome rumours about devilry and witchery and sorcery circulate about this fell place. However, you can't really see far enough to glimpse the island itself. In your backpack is, since you have an interest in mining and such things, in your backpack is clutched one of the few artifacts from Valkonen that was present in your homeland before you travelled here. It's a small, cracked piece of stone, and on it is a very crudely drawn map, which shows a rough coastline and a crude depiction of the range of hills that you now look at. The only thing that really stands out on the map, which obviously depicts the lake, the Witch Isle, the hills, the surrounding area, is what appears to be a large sunburst icon that has been carved into the hills. What that stands for, you don't know, but since it's in the hills, it may be connected with mining or the archaeology of some sort of ancient ruins. You've bought this artifact with you thinking maybe you'd get a chance to look into it perhaps, but obviously your first mission now is to meet up with the others. As you're wandering through the hills, like I say, heavy snowfall has been coming for a couple of days. It's quite thick. You're having to trudge through the snow and brace yourself against the wind. And as you're moving forwards, you see what appears to be a body, perhaps, judging by the outline of it, although it be covered in snow. What appears to be a body lying in one of the recesses in the hills. You can just make out a couple of maybe rib bones sticking a couple of inches out of the snow.
I will take a closer look at the body. Does it appear human?
You move over to it, and like I say, apart from one of the ribs which is sticking out of the snow, the rest of it is pretty much covered. However, looking at the body, it does look to be of a humanoid shape, because you can obviously see the lump in the snow.
And has it got any clothing or anything that would give me a clue as to if it might be one of these folk that I'm looking for?
Not that you can see without moving some of the snow. I feel like, say, you can see a little bit of bone jutting out of the snow.
Oh yeah, I'll clear some snow away.
Yep.
Firstly, though, before I do that, are there any tracks of wild animals, fresh tracks or anything like that? Predators?
There are a few little tracks around, but they're all small things, like sort of Arctic hares, stuff like that. Nothing big.
Nothing concerning.
No.
Okay.
So you move in, obviously you've got gloves on because you're wearing appropriate gear for the weather. You move in, you start brushing the snow away, and indeed it does appear to be a body. It doesn't appear to be wearing any clothes. It must have been here for a little while because it's entirely skeletal. And at first you're like, okay, yeah, here's the rib cage, here's the and you start sort of moving your way down. You're like, all right, here's the legs. Okay, yeah, and it's all looking like a human skeleton. However, when you get to sort of just below its chest, you can see that this skeleton appears to have a large bony tail.
What?
With almost a sort of club-like appendage of bone on the end of it. That's sort of obviously underneath, sort of tucked underneath it where it's fell.
Right. Yeah, that's a bit irregular. I don't think I've seen anything like that before.
You carry on brushing the snow away from the body, and as you sort of move to the upper half of the body, it all looks human until you get to where the head of the creature would be. And as you brush the snow off it, you can see a skull under there, but it looks more like a wolf skull, or maybe a dog skull, rather than a normal sort of human skull. But like I said, this thing's obviously been dead for quite some time because there's no flesh on it.
Okay.
There's a few bits of sort of half manky fur clinging to some of the bones, but that's about it.
Well, Leopold will just take a moment to kind of process that, and then he just sort of stands up and shrugs it off a little bit and shoulders his pack.
Okay. Now
maybe rubs his chin a bit and heads into the hills, I guess.
Okay. So you start making your way into the hills. Like I say, the wind's whipping about you. Heavy snow is falling. It's extremely cold. You're having to regularly sort of knock snow off your kit. So, John Cameron and Weimar Longgrove, you've recently sort of fled from the Witch's Isle, and you're making your way back across the hills. As you crest a rise, you've been trudging against the snow and the heavy winds that have risen. When, as you sort of move over the crest of this hill, you spot Leopold Stavish, who you recognise as one of the people from your village of New Seal Land. In fact, he was going to come with you when you went on your original expedition, but unfortunately business at the village kept him busy. And as you look down, you can see him, just as he finishes uncovering this skeleton, and he sort of stands back, a look of confusion on his face. But you can't, because the skeleton's in like a sort of recess, you guys can't see it clearly, but you can quite clearly see the sort of like the dark figure of Leopold, sort of squat and dressed in all his like all-weather gear with his gloves on, sort of like bracing himself against the wind as you sort of look down this gently sloping hill. As to whether you guys know each other, whether you spoke to each other before, that is entirely up to you.
I will call out, what have you found there?
Okay, so against the howling of the wind, which snatches away a lot of the sound, you sort of like hear a faint sound at first. And when you sort of like look up from the skeleton that you've been looking at, you can see these two figures trudging towards you. And Rob and Johannes, just for Colin's benefit, would you just give like a brief description of how your characters look?
Yeah, so John Cameron is a very young man, kind of 16, 17. Carries a musket that's like way too big for him, and also like a hand axe and a dagger, come short sword. Very much hunter type, wearing kind of fur clothes, a big fur cloak, real petulant attitude about him, teenager style.
Yeah, you would know, Leopold, that when you and the rest of the villagers, everyone here included, were sort of like setting up the settlement, and you were like gathering the wood to build the homes and stuff like that, John and a couple of the other villagers were the main ones who went out to like hunt animals to get food for like the villagers while you were setting everything up, whereas obviously you were sort of involved like a bit more in like the choosing the site and making sure the land was all right and like giving a bit of advice on construction and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so what about Weimar Lone Grove?
So Weimar is probably one of those people who went into the forest as well, because he is by profession a hunter.
Indeed.
So Weimar's appearance these days quite similar to Cameron, with a couple of distinctions. He's north of 30 when it comes to age, so he's much older than Cameron, and he's also wearing like rough hides and furs. However, I would say, based on previous descriptions here, like John Cameron is like the true pioneer, whereas Weimar would be like the man of the forest, the guy that you see out in the woods, is kind of like a hermit, I guess.
Okay.
Living in the wilds, more like. But you've seen him before in the settlement and all that. Like he's clearly like ex-soldier of some kind. Carries around a sword as well, which has no utility in sort of like settler life, unless you intend to fight other settlers, I guess. But yeah,
it's not super like useful.
No, you
it,
need axes and knives, not swords.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, he has one of those, and that was kind of the first sort of like, oh yeah, so he's one of them. So yeah, he was a soldier back in the homeland, and otherwise he's a hunter and a bowman.
Is he a bit loopy? Has he been a bit affected by his previous soldiering, or?
I guess that's to be found out.
Okay.
Previously, we did, because we had these horrific events happen that John described earlier. There was an inference to sort of having a rough time sleeping sometimes.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, sort of like mountain men type.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you see these people heading down the hillside towards you. obviously John Cameron sort of shouting, "What have you found that?" And as you guys move down the hill towards your new friend, you can see this skeleton that he's uncovered, this strange sort of humanoid creature, but like I say, it has this like almost like lupine or canine skull, and sort of tucked underneath the body is a tail of some kind, like this bony, like club-like end on it.
Yeah, so Leopold just looks up at him and he just kind of like nods his head, kind of thing, expecting these men of the woods to notice a sort of a fairly small acknowledgement like that. He's certainly not going to go to the effort of waving his arms around or anything like that. So as they come closer, I just sort of like nudge this thing with my foot and nod down at it, maybe shake my head a little bit and pull a bit of a face of disgust.
Sorry, John, how tall is this creature?
It's about human size.
Okay, so it's
So
significantly bigger than
Six-footish.
the creature we seen the last time with the bushy white eyebrows.
The diminutive sort of hunter you saw previously is considerably bigger. I mean, it's like 5'6", 5'7". You would guesstimate, obviously, because like it's sort of bones and there's no flesh on it, so the bones are a bit higgledy-piggledy. It's a guesstimate, but looking at it, you're like, yeah, it's easy, like 5'6", easy.
Okay. Cool. And the feet, are they kind of standard human-sized feet? Or are they kind of clawed or...
They appear to be slightly more splayed out, like you might get on a clawed animal.
Okay. Okay, interesting.
So you didn't get yourselves killed yet then?
Very close run thing. We fought off some zombies and some ghosts.
Ghosts?
Yeah, very
Ghostly.
very bizarre. We've seen these tombs with like a sunburst on them.
It's a whole order of knightly types from the looks of it. Fancy stonework, all the works.
And I'll pull out this stone out of my coat and say, what, something like this, sunburst looking something like that?
Okay, so out of his like backpack, Leopold pulls out this like small piece of stone, and as I described previously, on it is drawn like a very crude map, but it's clearly sort of like of the area that you're in, and you can see that sort of etched on it, sort of just north of where you are now, like you'd guess, because it's not a very to scale map, in the sort of hills is drawn a crude sunburst. It looks a little similar to what you saw, though it's like a crude depiction, but this is quite clearly in the hills rather than on the island. The island is depicted, but there's no like features drawn on the island.
Okay.
Yeah. I would wager there's no two different folks going about with the sun on their banner here. So.
What do you reckon it's about then?
I think something happened. They had lavishly decorated stone tombs there, and it seemed as if someone had carved the history of their knightly order. Mind you, I don't know, but that's what it looked like. I think they were burnt at the stake. So apparently there was a disagreement, perhaps of a spiritual nature. And they are, from what we can tell, and I glanced at Cameron, cursed to a man, to, I suppose, forever sleep and also rise from their tombs. We tried to take precautions on account of yours truly. That didn't help, and we legged it. When the mist came in, that's when they rise.
At this point, can I ask each of you to roll me a d6 for surprise?
It's a 1.
You are not surprised. Neither are you, John Cameron.
I knew it.
Leopold, you are sort of unaware of what I'm about to describe. So perhaps you're like looking back at the body, or maybe you're like looking at this stone sort of like and concentrating, Leopold. However, as he's doing that, and he's sort of looking backwards and forwards from the skeleton to like this little stone sort of tablet that he's got, Weimar and John, you hear from behind you, you hear like this sort of noise. It's very faint because the wind's quite strong. And I'm going to make a quick d6 roll as well. Okay, so as John and Weimar, as you sort of look around, you can see in the distance, probably about 40 yards away, give or take, you can see what appears to be this it's quite difficult to see, but you can see what appears to be this large white furred simian creature sort of like moving on its knuckles, sort of moving its way through the snow. It doesn't appear to be aware of you yet, and every now and again it stops, sort of looks around like it's sniffing the air, and you can quite clearly see like a sort of what appears to be a white furred ape. Although it's white, it's quite clearly not the same as the sort of huntsman you met on your previous. This is more like an actual ape.
Mm-hmm.
But like with white sort of fur to blend in with the snow. And as it looks around and sniffs the air, it makes this like noise. But like I say, it doesn't seem to be aware of you guys, and it's like not heading directly towards you or anything.
So it's not carrying any equipment.
No.
Yeah. I guess I would just like look to each of them and just like make a motion with my hand to like, and just like lay down in the snow.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Yeah, so with them drawing your attention to it, Leopold, you can now like see the ape, obviously, and you all sort of hunch down. The ape continues moving. It appears to be just sort of like scouting around, perhaps for food, but gradually it's actually sort of like making its way north, so it's like moving away from you. However, as it moves, like, at one point it like stands up on its hind legs, and as it does so, you can actually see that sort of gripped in one of its forelimbs is what appears to be like a long, like maybe like thigh bone, perhaps for use as like a crude club. It sort of picks that up. It's like looks around again, sniffs the air, then it goes back down onto all fours, and it carries on like slowly plodding its way northwards. And after a few minutes, it's lost in the driving snow and the wind.
That's a bigger version, I think. We saw a small one, but it had things like a person would. A small, very, I hesitate to say person, really, but I suppose that's what it was.
When you say it had things, how do you mean, like
equipment like you would have when you go out hunting? That it was
It
going
had
somewhere.
a bow and a knife and clothes and
Civilized things.
Yep. What, alone? Another
Yeah.
one?
Alone. Small one. Alone. It
So
was friendly.
You think there's maybe potentially a settlement nearby then?
Could be. Hard to think that it'd be out here alone. I hesitate to say that anything would get by here alone.
And if it's crafting weapons and equipment,
Yeah, those need to come from somewhere. So, from the looks of it, big ones probably not friendly. Small ones, you can deal.
it was friendly enough. We spoke for a few minutes.
you spoke with the thing.
We tried to. We made ourselves understood. We think.
Well, I was sent out here to find you, and find you I have. So, I guess I'm free to, I don't know, do whatever I like now.
Well, why were you sent to find us?
Good question. Why was I sent to find him again, John?
Because there had been smoke sighted rising from the ruins of Castlemaine.
Yeah. So, Castlemaine was. You went to investigate, I believe, and after you went off sight of smoke was made, and the village felt it would be appropriate and important to investigate this, as it was believed to have been ruined and ravaged, razed, whatever.
There was no one there when we left.
Unoccupied, and there was talk of a bear creature, some kind of bear monster thing.
Yeah, there was.
Yet now it appears there's some evidence of occupation, and the is it elders of the village or some sort of
it was the village elder,
the elders of the village have seen fit to dispatch me out to bring this news to you, and have requested that we investigate.
Cameron, didn't the small creature head that way? Didn't it go south?
I thought it went east. I thought we were heading north and it was coming from the west, heading east.
Right. Okay.
These creatures, if they bear tools and things, maybe they could, maybe they have fire.
Highly likely. I mean,
fear it's more likely that whatever it is came from the ruins in the Whale Song Forest.
Well, I suppose. Have we food, Cameron?
We do. We have a week's worth of food for 3.
Right. That should be enough to check what's going on with the smoke and then head through the snow. Title card.
As you're discussing this, a sound coming from the north reaches your ears, and it sounds like a horrendous screeching and wailing. You can hear like several voices, perhaps. It's a mix of animalistic grunting and almost sort of canine howling.
Well, I'll be unshouldering my crossbow and loading it at this point.
I think we should go and see what that is.
Yeah. Also, shooting probably very difficult with the wind. So, whatever you can do to take that into account.
This is just a self-defense kind of measure.
Okay.
I'll go first if you guys want to stay about 30 to 50 feet behind me. And I'll have my musket out ready to go, in the hope that I can scare off. If it's bigger than I anticipate, that I can scare it off with the noise.
Okay, now this sounds not, because of how faint it is, it's not coming from like right next to you. It's obviously coming from some distance away.
Do we think, based on the time that's passed, that it's this creature that went north? Does it sound the same even?
It's certainly possible, and like some bits of the noise could be made by an ape. Other bits, you don't think so.
The other bits sounded like wolves.
So, like, it could have run into something, potentially.
Yeah. It could have run into, because I ran into a wolf, a big one, 2 days ago, was it? We were camping around here in these hills. I was out hunting and I saw a very big, pony-sized wolf, and so they're around. So that part of that sounded like a wolf to me. So maybe it's trying to have dinner out of a wolf. But Cameron, if you want to check, we can. I don't know that I really want to, but
Well, we could just head in the opposite direction because we want to go south, and if this is happening to the north, perhaps we just
Yeah, but really, the elders could have checked out Castlemaine themselves, right? And we want to find out what's going on with this sunburst that's just north of here, right? And you know, really, in the time that it took you to get here, the elders could have been to the ruins and back. You know,
He's got a point.
yeah,
Fair enough.
they could have.
So, you know, I'm kind of tired of carrying them everywhere and doing everything for them. So, you know, maybe we just do our own thing. We find out what's going on with the sunburst. I'm very keen on that golden.
Well, listen, young
crown.
fella. Now, this is how they got to be elders. Bear that in mind. It's how they got to be elders, by getting mugs like us to do stuff for them. That's how you get old.
or
Yeah.
a command. But yeah, let's go. It's getting cold anyway.
Okay, so are you guys heading north to see what the ruckus was? Okay, so you travel north for about 5 or 6 miles. It's slow going. By the time you've you've travelled that distance, it was late on in the day when you met Leopold. It's just starting to get dark. As you move over the top of a hill, you can see in the distance what appears to be a cave set into the hillside, and outside the cave is the ape that you saw previously. It now appears to be dead. Its blood is splattered on the snow, and from the distance you're at, it looks as though part of the side of its head's been caved in, like large amounts of its brains and parts of its face are smashed over the snow, and it's just lying there in the snow. There are several chunks of flesh, almost as though they were bitten, taken out of its torso. You can see the remnants of its blood, which is slowly starting to freeze in the cold temperatures as it's lying there. The snow's just started to cover it.
I don't know about you fellas, but the way that head is stove in there, that don't strike me as a wolf type of thing. But maybe them chunks out of the body. But
I mean, to be honest, Leopold, if you had to guess, it's not sure because you're at a distance, you're still on top of the hill peering down at it, but if you had to guess, it looks like someone's taken a big mace and just smashed the side of its head in.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking from the description. Looks like something's battered him over the head. And
How big is the mouth to the cave?
The mouth to the cave, it's probably about 10 foot wide, maybe 5-6 foot tall.
If you look at the chunks that have been taken out, how big is the span? Okay.
Just a bit bigger than a human mouth would be.
Yeah.
Can we see any tracks? I guess we can obviously see the ape's tracks heading north towards the cave.
Of course. And you can see there's obviously been some
awful.
kerfuffle here, and there's tracks all over the place in random scatterings. You can also pick out what appear to be several wide claw-shaped tracks heading into the cave.
Do they look anything like the creature that we just seen that was deceased?
Very similar, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. That had that bony mace-like tail, didn't it? That maybe that's its weapon, like one of them dinosaurs with the smacky tail. So, maybe there's a bit of a rivalry going on between the apes and these creatures. No smoke, or can we smell it? Oh, don't know. We're probably a bit too far
Death,
away.
probably.
Yeah. Do we want to take a cautious advance cautiously?
How furry is the ape?
It's got fur that's about that sort of long. Obviously, the chest doesn't have any fur on, neither does the face. There's a bit on the back of the head. There's a bit down the sort of back of it and on the legs and forelimbs.
Okay.
But it's not like massively furry, to be honest.
Okay. But it'd be some value to it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's value in the fur, and I think it would be interesting to know more about these creatures. But how far further north, based on the map, do we think that the sunburst location might be?
Okay, it's difficult to tell because of the sketchy nature of the map.
Yeah, it's super abstract.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
you would say 10 miles, give or take,
Okay.
assuming the map's accurate.
Well, should we see? The thing is, we need to camp out somewhere, don't we? Soon. So we
Probably make some distance still today. But of course, eventually, yes.
Is it not nearly night? Is it not? We're losing the
It's
light,
dusk.
aren't
Yeah.
Sorry, Leo. I look at Cameron. We switched our rhythm, to say the least.
we? Oh, okay.
Yeah, to be fair, and just to speed this up, over the course of the next few minutes, they explain that because the sort of ambulatory corpse they were following, they explained that when sunlight hit it, it just became a normal corpse and fell to the ground. So it was only active during like the hours of darkness. So they basically had to sort of travel at night, so they've got used to sleeping during the day. So yeah, so for you guys, you've probably not been up that long, to be honest. Whereas obviously Leopold, you've been like struggling along through the day and sleeping in a normal rhythm. So you're sort of starting to get like, I'm a bit worn out, I'm getting a bit tired. Whereas these guys are like, I've only been up for half an hour.
What was second
right, okay.
breakfast?
Right. So you're traveling at night.
Or we were, anyway.
Right, you were. Okay.
Yeah. But do we want to look into this?
Well, I don't mind the stavish. We're stout. I care not whether I carry on or stop.
Yeah, I suppose the real question is,
I was more
do we
concerned
carry
about
on?
you humans.
John, we were some distance away from the big ape with the bone.
Yeah.
How big compared to a person was it?
It was sort of like standard, like gorilla size, basically.
Okay, yeah. So still like massive.
Yeah. Yeah, it was big, but it wasn't like supernaturally big. It was just
so
a big
it
gorilla.
wasn't like a
It wasn't like a dire ape or anything.
Yeah.
No.
So that creature, if it is indeed the thing that we saw in the snow,
Well, it seems likely. Weimar.
it's of the kind of animal and the size of animal where it's gonna take a lot of poking to put it down.
So what you're saying is you're concerned, maybe a little scared.
Yeah.
That seems fair enough. What about you, Mr. Cameron?
I like that fur.
You like that fur?
I'd like that fur.
I see you sizing that up.
I do. My bear fur got burnt, and I'm quite disappointed.
Oh, that's another creature that took some poking to put down, by the way.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, whatever our ape friend ran into made a big mess of its head. I'm not in a massive rush to have my head in a similar condition, I have to say.
And John, I'll get my newly acquired pistol out and make sure that it's all
That's absolutely fine.
all ready for action.
One thing
I
that
mean-
is sort of standing in your guys' favour a little bit is you've noticed that over the course of the last like half hour, the wind has slowly sort of started to like die down a bit, and the snowfall is a little less heavy. Looking at the sky, you think it's probably going to be a bit clearer tomorrow.
I wondered, perhaps we could rest up somewhere in sight, stake it out, keep a cautious eye on what's going on?
It would be interesting to see their numbers.
You know, whilst I could carry on, I shouldn't mind a breather. And,
Shall we go into the hills?
well, I was thinking perhaps around here somewhere, downwind or upwind of this place. We could hunker down, maybe secrete ourselves stealthily with a view of this cave. Take turns watching, grab some rest, formulate a plan.
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
Okay, so you guys are effectively, if I'm correct, obviously correct me if I'm wrong, you're planning to like make camp in the hills, and over the course of the evening, like whoever's on watch effectively is going to keep an eye on the cave.
A stakeout, yeah.
Yeah, no problems. Okay, so since a day has passed, you will all need to consume one ration to sort of keep your fighting strength up. Okay, now I'm just going to assume you guys are all like taking a watch.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Leopold, you're taking like the first watch because you're like, oh well, I'm up. I'll do the first watch, then I'll get some kip, basically.
Yeah.
So you're taking the first watch. Weimar and Cameron are sort of napping a little bit, you know, trying to like readjust their internal body clocks, etc. And you're keeping an eye on the mouth of this cave when, as you watch, you see what appear to be two creatures. They're humanoid. They look like they have human skin. They're wearing like tattered like rags, like tattered clothing. However, their heads are sort of like a weird amalgamation of like partly human, but they have like a very canine cast to them. So like a dogman sort of head. Their hands are clawed, their feet are clawed, and swishing behind them, sort of disturbing the snow, are these large bone club-like tails. You watch as two of them emerge out of the cave, moving at first on all fours because the cave entrance is quite low. They come out and they're sort of sniffing the air like dogs. Then as they get out into the open, they stand up on their hind legs, look around. They don't spot you. You've had loads of time to like hunker down, etc., and you're a distance away. They don't spot you, so they slowly move across to where the corpse of the sort of white ape creature is lying, and basically each one of them grabs hold of like one of the legs of this ape creature, and they drag it back into the cave, leaving a sort of furrow in the snow with like blood smeared in it as they drag it, and then they disappear back into the cave mouth with it.
Yeah, I just observe it and take it all in with a view to explaining to the next person on watch what I've seen.
And the next person on watch is Weimar. So Weimar, when you get up for your watch, Leopold explains what he's seen, and he sort of shows you, and you can see like because the snow's now pretty much stopped, you can see like the bloody trail and the furrow where the ape was dragged back into the cave. Although obviously you've not seen any of these creatures, and nothing particularly noteworthy happened on the rest of your watch, Leopold.
Okay.
So Weimar, you take over. Your watch passes uneventfully. I presume you share that information with Cameron when he wakes up for his watch. again, your watch passes uneventfully as well, Cameron. And the next morning, as the sun is rising, you all sort of start like waking up. And in the light of the day, you can more clearly see this bloody furrow heading to the cave mouth.
I wonder, do these creatures sleep during the day? If they came out at night to get the body.
Well, that seems like that seems fair. Although they did attack that creature by day yesterday.
I wonder if that was because they felt threatened with him approaching the cave.
Yeah, maybe. So far we've only seen two, and I can confirm that club-like thing on the end of their tail. I think that's what stove in the head of this creature, this ape.
It's an interesting creature.
Yeah, and we've no idea of the numbers involved.
Nor of how expansive the cave is.
Or anything.
So probably make note, figure out the landmarks so that you know where this is, and let's not go there.
Yeah, should we maybe continue north for a few miles to see if we can come across?
Yeah, just poke around, see what's there, and
explore the hills further.
Yeah, see what we can find vis-a-vis the. Again, hesitate to call it a map. Let's call it an idea.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, this symbol was carved on here for a reason.
Quite. I've marked on the map where you've seen the cave. It's marked with the spooky monster face.
Yeah, seems
appropriate. Joy.
So obviously you guys know there's like a big landmark nearby, the lake, Witch Isle, so it's not difficult for you guys to be like, right, yeah, we've just got to remember it's this far sort of southeast of the island, so there's no problems establishing where it is.
What are we going to call these things? Mace tails? Dogmen? Mace tails? Dogmen.
Sorry, Adam.
Yeah, club tails, dogman, seem descriptive, both. Makes you think why such a thing exists. But
it exists to stove in the heads of these white apes.
Of great apes. I suppose that's the circle of life, as it were. Okay, shall we proceed?
I'm very tempted to burst into song, but I will.
Yeah, I wonder why that is, though. I wonder. It's a funny thing. Like, some things just make you want to sing.
Yeah, every time somebody says circle of life.
You know why that is, don't you? It's because on the day we arrive on the planet and blinking step into the sun, there's more to be seen than can ever be seen. More to do than can ever be done.
Yeah, in this land of ice and snow.
Okay, now, as we said before, the day is quite clear. It's still crisp and cold, but the snow appears to have stopped, and there is a wind, but it's a fairly gentle wind at the moment. The conditions are quite clear. It's quite bright all around because obviously the sunlight's reflecting from the snow that covers the landscape. What do you guys want to do?
I think we're going to head north for like 10, 15 miles and see if we can see any... I guess we're kind of looking for buildings or temples or something that might...
Yep. Something that people made.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm going to ask, can you pick one of you who is acting as the sort of the guide? And they'll be the one making the they'll be the one making the sort of roll to see if you get lost or not.
Okay.
So
it's a D6 roll?
Yep. Okay. You do not get lost, which isn't a surprise. There's quite a lot of landmarks around. So you travel sort of like northeast, skirting the edge of the hills around this dogman lair. And as you're sort of travelling through the hills, eventually you see what appears to be sort of set in the side of one of the sort of steeper, almost sort of just shy of being a mountain sort of style hills. You see what appears to be the crumbling remnants of an old building. I've actually got a picture here that I'll show you. There you go.
A quick question. I was just looking at my character sheet, and you know the exploration rolls?
Yes.
They don't seem accurate for a dwarf. Am I supposed to change them, or?
I don't believe so, but it doesn't really matter now anyway, because obviously you've not been making that roll yourself.
No, I was just wondering because.
I don't believe so, but remind me at the end, and I will look at it, and then obviously if we need to change anything, we will do.
Okay.
Okay, so I've shown you guys the picture, like I say, set in the side of one of these mountainous hills.
I'm not seeing a picture.
All right, okay. Let me just see.
Aside from the map, I can see the map fine, but
Yeah, I can see the map, but no picture.
It's probably one of these ridiculous Roll20 permission things, so just give me a moment. My Roll20 is being incredibly slow.
yeah, there we go.
Oh, there.
Yep.
Okay.
You see this worn, sort of derelict and obviously weather-beaten columned building, although one of the sort of columns on the front appears to have collapsed, and sort of at the apex of the columns, sort of where there's like a cross beam, although it's all of stone, you can just about make out, although faint and abraded by water and wind, what appears to be a sunburst. Sort of looks like it was once like a fairly deep carving, but it's been worn away by time. Most of the stone looks incredibly worn. It's been cracked due to water expansion and freezing temperatures. But the so having a quick look at it, Leopold, I believe dwarves get something to do with some architecture and whatnot, if I remember correctly.
Well, that'd be what I was just on about.
That's why I'm reaching for the book, mate. That's why I'm reaching for the book.
Yeah. I think it's got one on the sheet, but I'm pretty sure it's one or two.
Yeah,
I think one or two.
It should be a 2 in 6 chance.
Yeah.
So just roll me a d6.
I've just shut the whole lot down by clicking on the wrong cross.
That's all right. Just do the typing in like /r 1d6.
Well, the only thing I've got open is Zoom. Hold on. Okay.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. My Roll20 is throwing a bit of a mare at the minute. It's running quite slowly.
Right, here we go. Hold on. Talk amongst yourselves.
The
circle of life.
Well, it does move us all.
I'm rolling d6, right? Okay. No.
Okay. So as you're looking at it, you're not getting any sort of like great sort of architectural insight. However, as you're looking at it, you think that despite the fact that some of the decorations cracked and it's in pretty bad nick, to be honest, you think sort of looking at it, I mean, you can't tell properly until you like get a closer look, but just having a quick sort of recce on the outside, you think that the actual sort of overall structure of the building looks pretty solid. So you're pretty sure that like as you walk up to it, it's not just all going to collapse on you or anything.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the people that built this knew what they were doing. There's some good craftsmanship going on here, I feel. And this superficial erosion on the outside is nothing to be too concerned about. And I think this is what we're looking for, gentlemen.
What time of day is it, John?
It's early. It's not even midday yet.
Okay. So then I suggest, gentlemen, that if we're going to explore it, that we do so while the sun is high in the sky. and we make sure that we can get out before the sun sets, just in case there are more of those ghosts here too.
Yep. So each body that we or grave that we find in there might potentially have a corpse in it, which is going to do something, maybe, because that is exactly what happened on the Isle. Each and every corpse, according to sort of the best practices at the time, which is to say, things I came up with in the moment, were done in an effort to try and sort of mitigate that, and it did nothing.
Indeed, and you know, Leopold, that after the incident with like the bodies rising in New Zealand, that although people weren't keen at first, Weimar suggested that, like, you know, we're going to have to burn the bodies. Now, being quite a sort of like religious people, as you all are, they were like, oh, you know, we can't burn bodies. You know, you've got to like lay people to rest. You know, like desecrating the dead. But when Weimar basically like laid it down, like, look, potentially anyone who dies is going to be like rising up and killing other people. Eventually, he persuaded like the village elder, like the alderman of the village, and he sort of made it known to all the people. Yeah, we might not like it, but if it's a case of we burn bodies or we all get killed, best start building them bonfires.
Yeah, the fresh ones, the new ones, you can burn, and that's the end of the tale. But the old ones on the Isle, I cut off the head of each one of them, trying to stop. If there was something there, I wanted to get ahead of it, and it didn't work.
See what you did there?
Yeah, just using my old noggin.
Or their old noggin.
Yeah. It didn't do anything. The corpses disappeared. I stacked them like cordwood, intending to burn them. But the dark came and mist, corpses gone, rising up from the original tombs like I did nothing. So if there's corpses here, I suppose let's let them be, because I don't know what we can do.
And you think it's something to do with this mist? You got a theory?
I think so. No, I don't know why, but there was. I guess it's a part of the curse or whatever. But like whatever happened to them, I think they were burned and then a curse somehow, or maybe the other way around. I don't know. The order of events was kind of hard to pick up from the tomb inscriptions, but I think something really bad happened to that particular group of. I think maybe religious knightly order, that kind of group.
And did you only find this mist on the Isle, or have you?
No, right, just on the Isle. And that's where I suppose that's probably the origin, or like the maybe let's see what's inside here. But that's where the curse comes from. That's where the fresh kills try to get to.
Right.
So that's where we know they are attracted to. And they're we didn't mention this because of the other things. On the Isle, there were other sort of accursed, such as the fresh kills in our village, that had been there for various amounts of time. So when we got there, the limp bodies, such as we know that all these bodies turn to as when the sun is in the sky, there were a lot of bodies on the Isle, which I think we all think that they were victims of the ilk of our poor mates from the village. They were recipients of a lesser curse here, I think, such as the dead in our village. And we dispatched those. They stayed down when the darkness came.
Well, it's going to make things a little bit difficult for the purposes of colonising and making a living and trying to run a business, etc. With all this going on,
Yeah, something needs to be done with the Isle, and one can only hope that someone who who knows about these things eventually washes up on our shore, because I did the thing I thought would work, which is the off with the head.
the burning thing.
Yeah, I think maybe the burning would have worked.
No, we didn't get to see. We
I
ran
know
out of
he was
time.
ready. You was ready to burn them.
Yeah.
Yeah, we ran
But
out
the
of time.
the,
so-
the head, nothing. The corpses just disappeared. So
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the burning thing would work. That seems reasonable to me.
Maybe if we go in, and I think we do, because we came all this way, we want to see what's there.
And try and get out before it gets dark.
Yeah, and also maybe leave don't touch the bodies. Maybe, I don't know if that does anything, but the
Well, I'm not really in the business of touching bodies. I don't know
Yeah.
quite what you're trying to say, but
no, I mean,
I'll take that as a warning. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know what you've heard about us dwarfs, but
No, I wasn't trying to make you out like
Okay.
tomb robbers or anything, but
okay, all right.
but
No,
I
that's
just-
fine. Appreciate the cautionary tale.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I suppose let's see what's in there. Do you have torches?
I do.
Okay. Leo, do you have torch?
I have a lantern. I will
Look at you. All progressive.
I will light it up.
Yeah.
Should the need arise. However, I don't want to waste my oil needlessly. If our friend here, Mr. Cameron, has a torch.
Yeah. John, I'll get my shortly used torch going again, the one that I used to wave at the direwolf.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
So I'll
Just
get
to
that
make,
going.
obviously you don't need to light them at the minute because you're not actually in anywhere dark, but I'm assuming you've all got them ready, basically.
Yeah.
I like to see some frugal use of light sources,
Indeed.
like my old grandma used to say.
And just to make you all aware, a torch burns for 1 hour after being lit. A lantern will burn for 4 hours on 1 flask of oil. Now, obviously, with your average sort of combat round being like 6 seconds, it's a long old time.
I don't know why you would reference combat when we go into this abandoned temple.
Just in case, I'm just floating it out there. Okay.
He's trying to intimidate us.
So I'm going to move you guys onto the map, which I'm hoping you'll all be able to see.
Oh, it's a regular artist.
Seems like everything's in order, and we don't need to investigate further, I think.
Oh.
Okay, so as you guys are approaching the outside of this ruined temple, as you get nearer, you can see just outside the front entrance are what appear to be 2 mules, like pack mules. They're both dead. They're lying on their sides in the snow, and lying between them is just like a pile of stuff, like equipment that's just like scattered all around, like it's just been dropped or thrown between these mules. You can see tracks very similar to like the clawed feet of the strange like dogmen creatures you saw, but also there are some like human tracks that appear to head into the temple building, but the clawed tracks also, although they're all dotted around, there's also a set heading into the temple. As you look,
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, as you look around, it's just like a bewildering array of like stuff that's just like lying around in the like shallow snow here. You look around, you see like a little bag on the floor that like you just like kick it with your foot and it makes a metallic chinking sound, Leopold. You open it up and there's like a load of chisels in it. Like there must be like nearly 20 like little chisels in this bag. As you're sort of looking around, Cameron, you can see there's like a pitchfork and what looks like a miner's pick lying discarded in the snow. As you're looking around as well, Weimar, you can see what appears to be a small frozen vial of ink. There's a small little cask which has a sort of sickly sweet sort of smell coming from it, and there's a rake lying in the snow as well.
A rake. Wow. Any rations or anything sort of immediately useful like that?
Well, what I will do is, I don't know whether it'll, I'll post this in the Zoom chat, like a list of everything you can see basically.
Okay.
And it's a fair old like pile of stuff.
Large cage. What is that? Can we tell what that might be for?
You can see it's quite badly dented and sort of like almost ruined, but there's like feathers and bits of fur inside, like maybe there was once an animal inside. You also find the remains of what looks to have been like some sort of small chariot or cart. Maybe the mules were pulling it, but it's been absolutely trashed. There's like a wheel there, a few bits of like reins there, another wheel over there.
Looking at the wreckage, is there any sort of identifiable quote-unquote animal marks on them? Like claw marks is what I'm going after? Or is it just like splintered wood with no... So like...
You do find some claw marks and some bite marks, particularly on the mules. However, a lot of the damage to the larger stuff, like the chariot or cart, appears to be sort of like bludgeoning damage, like something's just like smashed it to pieces.
Yeah. No sort of tool use though. Like
no, not that you
axes
can see.
Or
no, there's no signs of swords, bows, or anything like that.
Yeah.
It looks to have been a savage attack, so everything's just like shredded.
And the footprints going into the cave, are they like recent? They're in the snow, are they? And they're like recent or relatively
They're in the
recent?
snow. They look like they were fairly recent. I mean, probably within the last day or so. And like I say, it's a set of human footprints. You can tell by the distance apart they are that the person was obviously running, and they sort of ran towards the entrance to the temple. And then there's these by now familiar sort of clawed footprints moving at speed alongside it.
It's a funny set of stuff they got there. So a chariot.
Very strange.
Well, if nobody's got any objections, I'm going to pick up that salted ham and that miner's pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the salted ham counts as a ration, and obviously the miner's pick does what it says on the tin.
Yep. Cool.
Like I say, the things like the large cage, the large chest, the chariot, they're pretty much totaled. You can only really just tell what they were. There's also what appears to be like a sort of wooden loom, you know, for like weaving fabric.
Yeah, I saw that.
But that's like been ripped to pieces. You can tell because you can see the shuttle from it, and like a few bits of like bundles of thread which are now like soaked.
I'll take the chalk and the nails. And
I might grab up that vial of ink because I'm not a dummy.
Yeah, you pick it up. Obviously, it's been in the snow, so it is frozen, but it looks to be like reasonably intact. So you're pretty sure, like once it warms up, you might have to shake it a bit, but it'll probably be all right.
Is the rope net in good nick? I'll take that too.
No problem.
For making traps and whatnot.
It's as heavy as all get out, though.
I'll put it in my backpack though. I think it should fold up relatively small because it's kind of rope.
Okay, well, since you know what you're taking, you've got the list. I'll remove the equipment pile from the map.
Should we go on and see what happened here?
Yeah. I
think
say
so.
as I get a arrow out for my bow.
I'll make sure my musket is primed and ready to go, and I guess we'll step into the entrance.
Okay, not a problem. We're not in combat rounds, so feel free to move yourselves.
Get up to here and see what I can see.
Okay, yeah, so Cameron and Weimar, you sort of stride in, going up the small steps that lead inside. You can see it's a columned building, although much of it is sort of like bits of the roof have collapsed. There's like little piles of rubble everywhere. At the sort of western end of it is what appears to be like a raised dais with a few small steps leading up to it, so sort of like here-ish. And you can see that where it sort of forms like a sort of round aperture, sort of emblazoned on the floor in sort of blue ink. I know it's not blue on the map, but use your imaginations. In blue ink is what appears, sort of faded and chipped, is what appears to be this sort of sunburst pattern around the dais. And you can see that sort of around the sort of curved part, there are sort of various like windows that look out over the hills.
Okay.
As you're looking, obviously you can't see any footprints in here because there's a roof on it, so there's no snow in here, although it's made of stone, so it's cold in here. As you're looking around, Cameron, you can see what appears to be a flight of stone stairs here. Maybe you can see that ping I'm doing.
Yeah, can, yeah.
Okay.
And this mark in the middle of the floor, is that blood or is that paint or?
It's not blood, it actually appears to be sort of like a reddish stone that's been sort of set into the floor. And it seems to be like a slightly more abstract sunburst with like a few sort of other circles on it. But it's, you go and check it, it's not blood or anything. It's like they've laid like a mosaic of like reddish stone into the floor.
Pretty impressive. So I'll call out to the others that I found some stairs. And I guess there doesn't seem to be anything else, so I think we should head down.
Okay, Leopold, from where you're stood, so around about sort of here-ish, you can see what appears to be the faded remnants of some sort of small pictures or something similar on the wall, again in a similar sort of blue, sort of chipped like ink or maybe paint to the sunburst, but they're very small, sort of little pictures. You wouldn't be able to see them clearly unless you went sort of like up to them. You just spotted the discoloration.
I'll just look over, see if Cameron's looking at us. If he's looking at us, I'm just kind of gonna give him a hand signal that I'm gonna go and have a quick look over here. If he's not looking, I'll like make a like kind of noise, and then do the hand signal thing, and
Feel
then
free to move yourself over.
Head across over to these pillars.
Okay.
And you say these paintings or murals on this south elevation of the temple on the wall?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Where the windows are, yeah?
Indeed.
Between the windows.
And I'm going to show you a picture, which I'm hoping you can all see.
Oof.
If you click on that, it will magnify it.
Yeah. Oof. Well, there's a cipher. It's a cipher, isn't it?
Are you a linguist as well?
The something 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 the something something of the something something the. So I think that little thing that looks like a turtle is a H, and then the triangle thing is an E.
As you rightly said, it appears to be a selection of like pictograms due to the fact they're sort of the condition they're in. They've obviously been here for like a long time. But like I say, they appear to be done in the same sort of blue ink or tincture that the sunburst was done in.
Bit of woad or something like that.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I wonder if that crocodile thing's an O. I can see that being an O. Could be nothing of the sort. Could not be anything like that. So we could look around and see if we can find something to decode this, maybe up round the altar there. I'll call the others over because obviously they're not really aware of it yet. I'll just like wave with my arm to gesture them over and pointing at the wall. The reason I'm doing all this is I'm trying to be kind of quiet,
Yeah.
not be shouting up like a big mouth. Because being a dwarf, we know how voices and noise carries in these places.
That's quite true. Yeah, so you all see the pictograms as shown. Like I say, quite faded, quite badly chipped. They look as though they were done like a little hastily. But other than that, you can't really determine a great deal about them at the moment. Unless one of you wants to make some sort of roll.
Because I have
Like a dex roll?
No, it would be like an intelligence or a wisdom roll.
Well, I can see that, you know, there's quite a few of these potential letters are repeating. If they're using an alphabet, there's anything like our common tongue. You know, there's a few common things cropping up there.
Okay, in which case, Leopold, make me an intelligence roll. Obviously, you have to get under your intelligence score or equal to it. And since you've already worked out some of that, I'm going to give you a -2 bonus to your roll. Do you have any... would your profession help you out in this regard, or...?
Nah, probably not really. I mean, he's a mining engine. Well, engineering, mathematics.
Yeah, do you know, I'll up it to a -3.
Oh.
So roll a d20 -3. You need to get equal to your intelligence or wisdom, whichever you prefer.
Intelligence, I think. I've lost my character sheet. Get off. I'm really bad at window management, man. My intelligence is 12. Okay, so I need a 9. I don't know what to get.
Okay, so you rolled a 16.
Oh crap!
So that's
I missed
13
that
with
part.
the bonus, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed out by 1.
Okay, so Leopold and Weimar, you're sort of like looking at it, you're like discussing, you're trying to like puzzle this out. And Weimar, with the aid of the sort of stuff Leopold's already pieced together, although you're not really getting much more from it, Leopold, but like I say, he's already established like some basics, like this is probably and stuff like that. So peering at it, well, I mean, it does take you a little bit of time. I mean, like 10 to sort of 15 minutes. You manage to make out what you think are possibly a few words. You think it mentions cold, people going south. There's some reference to some sort of shining or sun-like creature or person. And then there's a reference to going east.
Yeah. So something is going south, something is going east. Probably one of these is people, and the other one probably is some kind of a sun embodiment. I don't think we can get much more from this. I think this is probably wild guessing either way.
Do we have any understanding of the legends of you know, when the ice came and that? Do we know about this?
You know that according to legends, and you would all know this, you would know that according to legends, your peoples originally came from this continent, and there was like a great ice age.
Yeah.
And because of that, there was what was referred to as the Great Exodus,
Exodus.
which was all of the peoples migrating south towards the equator and looking for warmer lands. Now,
Yeah.
the calendar, like, you guys date things as like AE, after the Exodus, so from that time.
Yeah.
Now, that was like a good, like, I'll tell you exactly how long ago it was. It was a good, like, let's see. So you're in the year 1286 AE, so it was 1286 years ago, if the calendar's correct.
And we were the lot that went east, were we not? Or we sort of went south and then went east off to another landmass?
If this refers to you guys, you would probably be the people who went south.
Oh, right,
'Cause
okay.
You left this continent, travelled southwards towards the equator, because obviously this is up in the north.
Yeah.
You travelled south in search of warmer lands, or rather your forefathers and their
Yeah,
forefathers.
yeah. Our ancestors, like, yeah. So we don't know about this people that went east then? So, all right. So that's a new development.
As far as your legends are concerned, like I say, it's like over 1,000 years ago. So like, there's not exactly like mad historical records, because it was pretty much the Exodus was like, it wasn't an organised thing. It was a shit. The ice is coming. Get to the boats and like head south. So a lot of information was lost, and a lot of sort of technology was lost. It's only after like 1,000 odd years that you guys have like climbed your way back up and sort of rebuilt yourselves, that you've been able to start sort of heading out again. So there's no real sort of like exact records as far as you guys know. Like, your people left the continent ahead of the ice sheets and headed south for warmer climes, but that's as far as your legends go. And obviously you don't know what happened here after that, because it was believed up until recently, when it was discovered that the ice had like moved back a bit, you guys believed that it was just like a frozen wasteland up here. So like no one ever bothered trying to travel back.
And do we know anything about what lies out to the east, or is that just mysterious?
You know that it's rumoured that to the east is like where the sort of, so like east and to the north is where like the great sort of glaciers begin.
Right.
So like effectively like the sort of North Pole sort of style deal.
Yeah. And in this world, does the sun still rise in the east and set in the west?
Indeed,
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
maybe
this
we
is
should look if there's more.
Okay,
more
so
clues.
what I'm going to suggest is, before you guys delve in, I'm going to suggest we have a short 5-minute break. All go and grab a drink, use the facilities, etc. We'll come back in 5 minutes and we'll carry on.
Okay. I've got to sort myself out a better setup here, John. I'm all tangled up with wires.
Yeah, I know how it is, man. Right, we'll just wait for Johannes to get back and then we'll crack on. Okay, so you guys are stood at the top of this stone flight of stairs in this ruined temple. The stairs head down into the darkness beyond, and from, as you're sort of listening from the bottom of the stairs, you can just faintly hear this like dung, 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 almost like a gong or someone like smashing two like metal pans together. What do you do?
Does it seem like it's getting closer and coming up the stairs? Or
It doesn't, no.
okay.
It's definitely coming from the bottom of the stairs, and it appears to be sort of like fairly consistent. But it's not getting any closer.
Okay. So I think I'll ready my musket and start walking down the stairs.
Okay, no problems. I'm going to move you guys onto the next map. Now, I've sort of placed you all so you're not sort of like all on top of each other in terms of your tokens, but also you are all actually on the stairs. So let's just switch maps. I'm hoping you can all sort of see some of the map and it's not done that ridiculous thing with the lighting again.
No, it's good. At least for
Good, yeah.
Okay, splendid. So, as you guys head down the stone stairs, obviously you hear the clanging sound getting like louder and louder because you're getting nearer to it. As you sort of like move down the stairs, with I'm assuming you like light your torches and your various lanterns, etc., so you can actually see. As you head down the stairs, you see one of these bone-tailed sort of dogmen creatures, and it's standing next to what appears to be almost like a sort of a metal gate. It's just like three sort of metal poles and it's basically throwing itself against these metal poles and sort of like banging on them with its claws, and every now and again it spins around and you see this bony tail go ding and smack into these metal bars. You see the metal bars are sort of bent a little bit, but they've not sort of given way yet, and this creature seems intent on like smashing its way through these metal bars. However, as you guys move down, obviously you're carrying lights. As you guys move down, it obviously sees the lights. It turns around and it lets out this sort of growl deep in its throat. You see like its tail rises up behind it. You see this bone clubs swishing dangerously behind it. and it sort of crouches down as if it's getting ready to like spring, you know, in the way that like dogs or wolves do.
These things are most disagreeable, aren't they? They seem very angry.
Okay, obviously there's no surprise to be dealt with here, so I'm going to ask, can you guys choose one of you to roll initiative for you, since it's team initiative? So
Well, as Cameron went down the stairs first, I reckon he should roll it.
okay, make that D6 roll, Cameron.
And perhaps his youthful vigour will aid
Okay, let me roll for the
us.
beast.
Or not.
It does.
Oh,
Okay,
well,
so
there you go.
this thing's getting ready to spring, but you guys have obviously hustled down the stairs and you've sort of caught it a bit unawares. It was so focused on getting through this gate that it's turned around seeing you guys, but you guys have got ample time to react. So I'm just going to go in the order you guys are on my Zoom screen, although if anyone wants to go in a particular order, just let me know. So Leopold.
I might go first because I'm gonna
Yeah,
fire.
if you want to, go for it.
Yeah, so I will just.
And I put my fingers in my ears.
Yeah, good call.
I've seen these things used before.
Okay, so you've rolled your misfire chance, have you?
Yeah, it definitely went off. Yeah.
Excellent. So there's this deafening like, and the stairway you guys are on is filled with this foul-smelling black powder smoke that for like a few seconds makes it quite difficult to see. You're probably all coughing and spluttering a bit because you're all sort of like behind him on the stairs as this billowing cloud of black and grey smoke engulfs you. Okay, so let's check what this bad boy's armor class. Oh, you have just hit him. Okay, however, obviously it's only like 1 damage, so it's only a graze. So you fire off the shot, but because you're on the stairs and it's like springing towards you, you're not able to get like a considered shot. You pretty much just have to like, as it's diving towards you, the shot zings it on the neck, and you see a bit of the fur spray up and a little bit of blood come out. However, it does need to make a morale check because you just fired a black powder weapon at it. Yeah, it's all right. Okay, so obviously it's springing forward, but Leopold, what do you want to do?
I will shoot my crossbow.
Go for it.
Oh, that's not going to hit.
Okay, you fire your crossbow. However, as this thing's moving into the light more, you can see, because this is the first time you've seen one up close and personal, you've always been at a distance before, you can actually see that like some of its skeleton appears to be almost like on the outside, like an exoskeleton, and your sort of bolt hits one of its bony shoulder blades and like ding, it bounces off it. Wymar, what are you doing?
Nasty.
I had the arrow ready, so it's
Go
going
for
to be
it.
a bow shot. $13.
Okay, your arrow grazes its shoulder, but not enough to do it any damage. So it's leaping forward to attack. Obviously, as we said, Cameron's like the first down the stairs, so it's going to be going at Cameron first. And I'm pretty sure with that terrible score, it's probably going to miss.
Yes.
Yeah, it's better with that damage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, it leaps on top of you and it's trying to claw at your face and your neck, your sort of like exposed areas, and you're sort of like holding up your musket, sort of like fending it off, and it's not able to get a purchase as you sort of like half topple over backwards with it sort of bearing down on you. Okay.
Okay.
Over to you guys.
Okay, so I want to take out my tomahawk and try to hold it off with one hand. Just want to swing and try and give it a crack on the head.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Make your attack roll.
And I miss.
Yeah, so you're trying to fend it off, but because you're also having to try and like defend yourself as it's like just like almost frenziedly like clawing at you, you're not able to sort of break off from your defense long enough to like strike a blow on it. Weimar, what are you doing?
Is there room to maneuver? Because the thing here obviously doesn't represent what we're actually doing here.
Yeah.
So is there room for me to maneuver to get into like chopping range?
Yes, there definitely is.
Okay. Yeah. So like just sling the bow over the shoulder, sword out, and get in with the stabs. Okay. Here it goes. Yep.
Okay.
So it's a frantic like
Yeah.
scrabble.
So Leopold, as you're sort of like looking down the stairs, you can basically see Weimar, Cameron, and this thing sort of like all in like a big sort of bundle. Weimar's frantically stabbing with his sword. Cameron's trying to like hold it off with the musket and like bring his axe around. This creature's scrabbling around with its claws. Its tails like lashing out, smacking into the walls. What do you do?
Well, I've got I've reskinned a battle axe as a forest axe,
It's fine.
so it's like a felling axe, a two-handed thing,
Yeah.
which is pretty familiar with for chopping pit props and stuff like that. I was just trying to look, I can't remember what the rules were for having a two-handed weapon in this was. But I
I
want
think it
to
was mainly it's slow. But
slow.
there's,
I
there's a
couldn't
couple
remember.
of variables between like what it is, the big axe.
Well, I'll tell you what, since it's important, I shall look it up. Just give me a moment.
So I think from memories of 1981, I think
So that fresh.
You're gonna have to cut
Yeah.
me. You're gonna have to cut me some slack, man. I was only one.
it's D8 damage, I think.
Okay, well, since it's important, let's just check. Equipment, here we go. Weapons.
Yeah, D8
Yeah.
melee, slow and two-handed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go for it.
It's +1 to hit, +1 to damage. Did anything happen?
I've not seen anything come up yet.
I'll try again. Anything yet? Ah, right. Well, that ain't working. Okay.
Just get a D20 roll.
I'll do a D20 roll. So 16.
Yeah, and you. Okay, yep. So you've hit it. So
Okay.
roll your damage.
That. Yep. So 3 + 1, 4.
Okay, so you hit it, and you can now see there's like you score like a vicious wound across its torso. It sort of springs backwards. Obviously, that it's now off the top of Cameron and Weimar, and it's sort of like moved back a bit, snarling. But you can see this horrible tear across its torso, with like blood leaking out of it.
That foul beast.
Okay, so I'm going to make, since it's like fairly injured, I'm going to make another morale check for it.
Unhand the young fella.
Okay, it's fine. Right, okay, so what it's going to do is, instead of like trying to deal with you guys, obviously you've just put the hurt on it thanks to Leopold, it again throws itself at the metal gate, and this time as it clatters into it, the metal gate finally gives way, and it's going to move. It moves through and sort of like disappears into the darkness of the chamber beyond.
I've just realised where the metal gate was. I was a bit slow there.
It's all right.
Yeah.
It's not there anymore.
No.
Okay.
Took care of that. Let's take care of that for us. One less job for us to do.
Over to you guys.
I guess I kind of want to follow it and see where it's going.
Okay, as you move forward with your torch, you can see into another small stone chamber beyond. In the north sort of wall is what appears to be a metal double door. You can just catch sight of like a couple of like keyholes in the door, so sort of like here-ish.
I'm just going to nudge Weimar and say to him, this young fella's going to get my hairy ass killed.
You can't really see it.
Yours isn't the only one.
Okay, the creature appears to be heading southwards.
Okay.
Occasionally it drops to the floor and it's like as it's moving.
And is there, as it's running away, can I get an attack on it?
Yeah.
Okay, try that. No.
Okay, so you launch your
fast for
attack
me.
just as it sort of scuttles forward, dropping to all fours, and you don't manage to land a blow on it. Leopold, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm just going to follow up John there. Just back him up here.
Okay, no problems. How about yourself,
I'll,
Wyman?
I'll perhaps stash my axe and get my crossbow and load it up ready.
That's fine. You can do. You're only moving like fairly slowly, so that's fine. You put your axe on your back and you're sort of thumbing a crossbow bolt into your crossbow as you move.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Weimar?
I guess I'll follow them in, and if I can, move there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Take a stab.
Go for it.
No.
Okay, the creature is moving so quickly on all fours that it's difficult to get a blow in on it. Because obviously it's not moving in a static line, it's sort of moving around as it's moving. As you're sort of looking past it now with your sort of torchlight, you can see there's a door in the south wall here. It's a wooden door, but with like bits of metal in it. But you see like the door's actually like open and the creature's heading towards it. I'll move the creature. It sort of scuttles through the open doorway into the darkness beyond. And from the darkness you hear like a...
Okay.
What sort of noise do we think that was, John?
It sounds, to your expert dwarven ear, it sounds like someone like hammering on wood. You know, banging their fists on wood.
All right. Okay. Oh, maybe that creature's run into something.
Well, let's go and see.
I thought you might say that. Cameron.
Okay.
Okay, so you move southwards carrying your torch, and as you enter the next chamber you can see on the southern wall it's like the rotted and sort of long decayed remnants of what must have been some like draperies or maybe a tapestry. To the west you can see the creature. There's a wooden door in front of it, this one closed, and it's hammering on the door and like clawing at the door, and over the sounds of it snarling and the loud like of it hammering on this wooden door, you can just about make out from beyond it someone going
Oh, blimey.
Okay, so I will try and hit it again, or at the very least distract it from the door. Ooh!
boom.
Not
Oh,
20.
there you go. Whoosh.
Okay, so would you like to describe the spectacular fashion in which you dispatch this creature?
So I guess what I'm kind of looking to do is, as it's kind of it's fusing its fists, is it?
Yeah, you see it was basically it's hammered with its fist and it was just getting ready to turn around and smash its club tail into the door when you like leapt in and delivered the killing blow.
Okay, so kind of what I see myself doing is having jumped on its tail to kind of put it off balance, and then a wallop into the back of the head then to kind of knock it out and put it down.
Yeah, you guys hear this weird sort of combination of almost like a human screaming and a dog howling as you deliver this killing blow, John. The noise echoes throughout the stony chambers of this temple. The creature twitches for a few moments as you pull your weapon free of it, and then it lies still.
Okay. Sorry, so just describe the creature again. Is its skin kind of like humanoid skin or kind of furry?
Its skin's humanoid, but with like odd sort of patches of bristly fur on it. And like I say, parts of its skeleton appear to be on the outside, almost like an exoskeleton. Its head is distinctly a sort of mishmash of like human and canine features, and extending from the back of it is this long club-like tail, which twitches a couple of times before it finally realises it's dead.
In summary, it's bloody gross. It's a gross thing. What a monstrosity.
Okay. And the exoskeleton, does that remind me of the bear exoskeleton?
It looks a little bit similar, yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Okay. Cool. So once I'm down there, I'll call out to whoever's behind the door. Hello, my name is John. The creature is dead now.
Okay, make me a charisma roll.
Ooh, I am super charismatic.
Okay, so after a few moments, the door opens, and behind it you see a very frightened looking man. He's wearing sort of like winter weather clothes, although sort of they must have once been sort of quite fine clothes. And he looks, he's wet, he's got bits of blood on him, he looks absolutely terrified. He says, you're sure that vile creature's dead?
Yeah, and I'm kind of standing on its head.
Yeah,
it's absolutely dead.
Yeah. And he slowly sort of like edges out from behind the door. You could tell from the way he moves that he was obviously like up against the back of the door, like trying to hold it shut because there's no like lock on it. He moves out and he's like, he sort of like grabs your hand and like shakes it earnestly, and he's like, "Oh, thank you. I had to flee in there after that horrible creature slew my mules. I barely escaped."
You must be the nail and chalk merchant.
He sort of like, he gets like a slight look of sort of like as though he's slightly knocked by you saying that, and he sort of like, he tries to like straighten up his like obviously dishevelled clothing, and he says, "Well, I'm not just a purveyor of chalk. My name is Hercules Buchanan. I'm a trader. I'd only recently arrived on these shores. I'd heard someone was trying to set up a free trade post near here, and I was on my way here with my wagons and a smattering of merchandise to see if there was anything in it. And then, as I say, that as we were passing these ruins, that creature leapt out and slew my mules, and I was forced to flee and take shelter here. Luckily, I was able to squeeze through the bars of that grate, but I could hear that damn thing trying to force its way through and batter them down. I've been hiding in here since.
You're a lucky man.
And he sort of moves around and like shakes you all by the hand, and he's like, "Oh, yes, but blessings of God upon all of you."
Oh, I helped myself to a bit of your stuff. I hope you don't mind.
He just sort of like waves a hand. He doesn't seem unduly fussed.
What is the name of this outpost that you were looking for?
He says, "Well, I'm not sure it has a name at the moment. It's not a full outpost. You see, I'd heard from some of my contacts that there were a few people who were gathering near here to see if it was worthwhile setting up a permanent trade post in Valconen, but I never made it there. I don't think it's a permanent. Structure or anything yet. Of course, I stopped off at one of the I think it was it Eastbourne or was it Kershire? I stopped off at one of the forts to resupply on my way here, but I didn't actually make it to this gathering place. I have no idea if it's what the scale of it is. He says, well, I don't have a full map, as I'm sure you're aware of. Falconan's not the interior's not been fully mapped yet, but I had directions. I know where the forts are. I know where I was supposed to be going. If any of my curiosity hadn't got the better of me, I saw the ruins of this place and thought I'd travel past them and just sort of not venture in, just sort of have a look from the outside, and then that creature set up on us.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say, Leo. How about us sit down, talk about these directions, and let's warm us up the vial that you took from outside, and scratch out what might even pass for a map.
Well, yes, I can certainly. I mean, that's the least I could do. I can certainly sketch you out a map of where I've been.
Yeah, I'll without word, I'll just produce the ink and hand it across to Weimar. Give it a little shake to see if it's warmed up a bit.
It has, because you've sort of like tucked it under your gear.
Yeah. So, I suppose like at least Weimar would like to just like sit down with Hercules and just like talk about the route that it took and the sort of. I presume the directions are placed on landmarks, so
indeed,
like get all that down and sort of figured out.
Okay, so are you guys sort of like heading out of the out of the sort of subterranean area, or are you just sitting down where you are?
Probably just sit down where we are, wouldn't we?
Yeah, I think inside might be a good, because we're not in a super hurry to get out before dark.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, as he's sketching you this map, I'm going to move you guys back to the main map.
Yeah.
I'll slice him off a bit of his salted ham and feed him up a bit.
Yeah, he greedily eats it. I mean, you know from the tracks that he must have been sort of like in there for at least like a day. So he's just been like holed up in this little thing, like pressing himself against the door, sort of scared witless. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncover the parts of the map that he's going to draw for you, effectively. So,
yeah.
Oh, cool.
And there's no parchment, so it's going to be like a piece of animal skin that we're like dappling ink onto.
Absolutely fine.
Or skin off the dog, man.
Oof, that's fresh though. Very, very fresh.
Yeah, that's on the moist side of life. I'm not going to lie.
What was we praising Gail about finding that stuff?
I like the tomahawk attack where it's critical and max damage. That's
right,
that's Gale.
I've just seen it.
Yep.
Okay. So you should see that like 2 extra like big hexes have been revealed on the map.
Yep.
We transposed Gale to this setting as well, have we?
It would appear so.
It might be a heresy though.
Undoubtedly.
Okay.
So he's
I
saying
won't,
that
I won't tell if you don't.
Okay, so can you
saying
guys
he came
see
from the
the
fort.
can you guys see the arrow
Yeah.
that I've got on the map?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's basically saying his ship landed here.
Yeah.
He travelled north to this place called Fort Eastburn. He then tells you he travelled east. He says there was some sort of like isolated dwelling there, but he didn't have like a chance to like look into it. He then sort of skirted the very edge of the lake here, sort of like between the mountains where they sort of sloped off a bit into the lake. He travelled on into the hills. He says he was basically heading to somewhere just north of here. But as he was heading past the temple, which is obviously where you are, he sort of thought, oh, I'll just travel past and travel like this. Then obviously he got attacked. And that was as far as he got.
Okay.
Right.
Well, my friend, you are very bold to head out on your own on such a journey.
He says, well, yes, I knew it'd be dangerous in Valkonen, but obviously the trade-up, this is a new, and he does like the inverted commas thing, he's like a newer land. Given that there's no established trade routes here, the possibilities for trade, should it prove worthwhile, are too good to ignore. I'm back at home. I'm small fry. I'm not one of the greatly established traders, and there's not a lot of room to maneuver. All of the trade routes are already in people's possessions. Out here, however, if you were the first to get in and claim trade routes or establish them, why, you could make your fortune here. It was too good an opportunity to ignore. Or at least I thought, and he sort of ruefully looks around at like the wreckage of his stuff.
A bit of a desperate gambit, I feel. A bit of a desperate gambit.
He says, yes, but as I say, back in Rohaleen, all of the trade routes are owned by huge mercantile companies and concerns. You either pay your way with them, and if you're lucky, in 30, 40 years, maybe you'll get a seat at the table, but that's not guaranteed. Whereas out here, your fortune's in your own hands. It's a frontier, and no one's yet laid claim to the trade routes here. And you can almost see that sort of like look of greed coming over his face as he's like thinking about all those lovely like gold pieces he could get if he was like the first trade route establisher.
Foolhardy at best, insanity at worst.
Well, at least this time, this one didn't lay claim to you and yours. Well, I guess it did to yours, but I nudged the corpse with a toe.
Yes.
A great thanks for this. This helps us, and I presume like we've because in order to establish any kind of sensible like mapping thing, we would have talked about where we come from so that we can triangulate the thing. So yep, we come from New Zealand. It's a small village, and
he basically gets you to like show him where it is on the map he's drawn.
And we have plenty of lumber. We do have fish. We're at the coast, so that goes. We're fresh, so we're still setting up other things, but for now it's lumber and fish, I think, which we have most of. Leo, I don't think we're pulling up anything yet from below. Anything sensible, anyway?
He says,
no, but we do have hides and furs and other stuff for sale as well, because we do a good bit of hunting.
Buchanan says, well, my original idea was that in about a week's time, the boat that brought me here was going to return. If I'd been able to establish that there was decent trading opportunities, I was going to sail back with the boat, bring the rest of my stock here, and set myself up in Valkonen on a more permanent basis. Obviously, if there weren't any opportunities for trade, I would simply get back aboard the boat and sail back to Rohaleen.
So how is it looking now, given all the givens?
He says, well, I suppose I'll push on to the gathering place and see what's what, but most of my stock is ruined or damaged. I have precious little to actually trade. Still, if it looks promising at the gathering place, I suppose I could always get back aboard the boat and bring the rest of my stock back with me. But alas, I feel I have very little to trade now.
So I will give you very bad odds if you continue on your own from here. There's things in these hills and where you're going, if I understood correctly, and I hold up the skin piece. if you're going this way, and I indicate the sort of this way, like towards the where I guess we know, because there's an open area here. There's not like a huge forest here, so I guess we know that in the distance there's the sort of elevated area, like the terrain like goes up vastly.
At which point he takes the map off you again. He says, well, I don't know how accurate this is, but when I was at Fort Eastburn, I did get a bit of the lay of the land, so to speak, and he sketches on some additional details onto the map.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, he then sort of puts he draws like a crude representation of like a couple of tents, and he says, this is where we were supposed to be meeting.
Right. So not...
You've anticipated my next question. Weimar, there's many dogmen. I am inclined to agree with your suggestion that he will not get far alone on this mission. You, my friend, you will be dog food.
He says,
if you carry on.
He says, well, I don't have a great deal to offer, but is there any chance that I mean, you three seem capable. I mean, you've dealt with that creature, and he like kicks the dead body of the dog man. He says, would it be possible for me to retain your services in the short term to escort me to the place I'm supposed to be going?
You think Castlemaine can smoke on its own for a little bit longer?
I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah, sorry, to my friends over here.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm still a little bit shook up from my ordeal.
Understandable. Have another bit of ham.
Oh, thank you.
You're feeding his own ham to him?
Yeah.
To be honest, he doesn't even seem to have, he doesn't even seem to have twigged to that. He's just like, I'm not eating for a day, and this dwarf's giving me ham.
Oh, delicious!
I'm generous
ham.
like that.
Oh, sweet honey glazed ham.
Just like I used to have.
I should charge him.
Wait a minute.
I should sell him his ham back to him.
He reaches on after he's finished chomping down on the sweet ham. He reaches under his jacket and he pulls out like a very small pouch, and he says, I don't have a great deal on me, only a few small personal savings, but I'd be willing to pay you for your services if you could see me safely to the trade area, and if at all possible back to Fort Eastburn. I'm sure from there I could make my way to the coast and to where the boat's going to meet me.
Well, I've no real objection to headed up that way, up near them mountains, and maybe there's some gold in that there river.
At which point Buchanan, looking a little bit thoughtfully, says, from what you're saying, and from what you've drawn on the map, you were saying you came from the south, so you must have, as you headed here, you must have passed the mountains on your west.
Yep.
He says, when I was at Fort Eastburn, obviously I was talking to people, like say, trying to get the lay of the land before I set out. I heard a few people there say that there was some sort of dispute with a Fort Kershey, which is about a day to the north of it, and something about wanting to build a watchtower in the mountains. There's some dispute between the lords of the two forts about who was going to be in control of the watchtower. It didn't sound like it had escalated into outright violence, but when I was talking to some of the soldiers at Fort Eastbourne, a few of them said that they wouldn't be surprised if it broke out into a conflict there. I don't suppose you heard anything of that? Any shots? Any sort of strange noises while you were travelling near the mountains?
We did hear something.
Yeah, there were noises. We didn't ascertain the truth of it.
He draws a sort of a rough X on the map where he says this site is, which you should be able to see like a little soldier there.
Yeah.
So, what are the powers that are involved in these forts? Are they our people from back in the
He
homeland?
says
Or?
yes, they're people from Rohalina, and from what I gather, it's a couple of well, rather like myself, fairly sort of well, not like myself. I'm a trader. They're nobles, of course, but minor nobles who, like myself, are seeking to establish themselves here, but because of the great potential of Valconen, they must have travelled over in large ships and bought settlers, workmen, their personal retinues with them. They've basically built. I mean, I've not been to Fort Kershey, but from what I hear, it's pretty similar. They're sort of fortified villages, wooden palisades around them, that sort of thing. I mean, I'm no expert on such things.
So it's a bit of a land grab going on.
I was just going to say that we came all this way to find two lords feuding over land.
Some things never change, do they?
No.
He says,
I thought we'd put all this behind us.
Buchanan says, "Well, I wouldn't be surprised if in the coming weeks and months there aren't more people arriving here. As I'm sure you're aware, back on Rohaline, that there's a lot of people who are poor, who are struggling, and a lot of people who don't think they have anything to lose. But despite the dangers, there's plenty potentially to gain here in Valconen. Not to mention those who are drawn by the law of revisiting what, if you believe the legends, is our ancient homeland."
Oh, I believe the legends, my friend. I believe the legends.
So if what you're saying is true, there's going to be a lot of dead people here soon. People wandering, people coming up here looking for whatever it is and getting ate by these. And I poke the corpse again.
He says, "Yeah, I mean, obviously I'll warn the people at Fort Eastburn if I can get back there. Of course. I mean,
there's a whole nest right here, and I'll like show on the map.
As you show him on the map, yes, he goes like a bit pale, as like he thinks about like how much damage he saw one of these creatures doing. You're like, oh yeah, there's a nest of them there. He's like, oh. And he looks very worried. He's obviously not used to like roughing it, and he's obviously not like a combat capable person by any stretch of the means.
Yep. Okay. Well, I guess we'll deal with all that when the time comes. I just hope that we would have a little bit more time before that foolishness started. But I suppose it's the way of the world.
He says,
Let us just make sure we are established before these fools come.
Yeah.
And perhaps we will make our fortune from them.
He says,
right.
So would you be willing to accompany me to the gathering place and to the fort? And he sort of like opens up this pouch and he says, I'm afraid I only have my personal savings, 30 coins. But if I would gladly give them to you if you can escort me.
I look to Cameron.
I'll be real dour, like we're going to take on another stray kind of thing. But kind of ultimately tiny bit greedy as well, looking at the coins. I kind of give a real dour nod.
Tell you what, though, and I'll sort of put a hand on the coins. What if you bring your boat around to New Seal Land?
Yes, I mean, I'd have to meet it first in the sort of place we'd established on the coast just south of Fort Eastbourne. But I suppose yes. Once I've travelled back to Roeline, which will obviously take me some time, but once I return, I mean, now you've given me the location, I could certainly arrange to have the ship more near there.
Yeah.
Although I believe there's some dangerous rocks and reefs just to the.
Oh yes. I was going to speak about that next. So keep a safe distance. Have smaller boats.
Yes, we could
traverse.
We could anchor the ship offshore. I'm sure, and use rowboats to come aboard. I'd certainly be willing to have the ship more near your settlement.
Yeah, we will eventually, of course, need to have a trading post of our own, and given the situation here, I thought it only prudent that we extend the invitation to you. There's
certainly
a small piece in all of us that led us here, and I think that is rather large a piece in your case, and maybe it will motivate you to do business with such as us, however modest our means may be, given the situation here.
He says, well, yeah, obviously I'll should I decide to continue trading in Valconen, obviously I'll need to establish a permanent base. I had thought Fort Eastbourne, but I don't see why I couldn't establish my trade from your settlement.
Yep, that's on land. That's what I was thinking. We have the river. We're on the coast. We have access inland. From what we've drawn here, I don't think Fort Eastbourne does that. So you would have access to quite close, from what I can tell from our drawing here, from your trading post here in the north as well, up the river.
He says, well, yes, that certainly sounds reasonable. And as I've said, should I decide to carry on trading, I'd certainly be willing to, if not actually in your settlement, since I don't want to inconvenience people, I'd certainly be willing to build my whatever trading concern near to your
surely
settlement.
There is space on the coast.
Indeed, as you say, if this bit of the map you've drawn is accurate, it seems like a prime location. Easy access inland, like say access to the river, access to the coast.
Yeah, there's a reason why Leo here, and I'll point at him, and some other fellas picked this one for our spot here. They have the long view.
And I'll tell you what, fella, Weimar's got a long way of saying it, but you got some balls. I'll give you that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it sounds ideal.
Yep, you've got some balls, and it'd be most advantageous for you to pull up your ship outside New Zealand. We'll sort you out.
He says, well, yes, obviously the journey back to Roeline will take me at least a couple of months, and a similar distance back, assuming a fair wind, and obviously whatever time it takes me to get my stock together. But yes, if that will secure your aid to escort me, I will quite happily place whatever trading concern I construct near your village, and perhaps even I'll be able to hire some of your fellow settlers to help with the construction of said.
Mostly, we have all the wood we can chop.
Yeah, and I'm in no rush. My kind, we're long lived. We're in no rush. We prefer the long game.
He shakes you all by the hand again, and he's like, well, we consider it done then.
Right. So, anything you saw there behind you while you were trying not to get ate, that might be worth liberating from this place?
He says, he looks around and he says, well, I didn't see anything of particular interest, but to be honest, I was I was so intent on securing the door in this chamber that I barely moved from the door.
So I would like to take a quick peek inside the whatever enclosure he was in.
Yep. So you look inside the small stone chamber, and there's what looks to have once been like a sort of like a stone throne, slightly raised up. Side in there, or some sort of like ornamental chair, basically, like I say, carved out of stone, but it's quite badly worn down.
Yeah.
Okay, so boom, 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 boom. Can you please roll me a d6?
3.
Okay, so you have a quick look around the room. At first, I mean, you take a fair old amount of time sort of doing it. At first, you don't find anything, but as you're sort of like looking around this stone throne and you're sort of examining it in more detail, you find what appears to be a small sort of stone, sort of pot, like flagstone that's not actually part of the throne, but it's been like pushed in like a little hidden compartment, so it's like flush with it. But obviously with the cold, the sort of contracting and expanding, it's slightly come away from it. You don't think it'd be too difficult to like prise this like stone out of the side of the chair.
We also have a pick, conveniently.
Oh, yes, we do. Leo! There's pick work to be done.
Okay, so Leo gets his pick, sort of like puts it in the crack of this like concealed sort of compartment in the stone chair, presses on it with his dwarvish strength, and is rewarded when the stone goes and falls to the floor. As it does so, like a small pile of like silver coins, like just like cascades out.
Nice.
I think we're in business.
And you can see sort of like looking over the top of the bit that's come out, there's like more like inside the throne, like the throne's hollow.
I'll smack the throne a couple of times.
You sort of spend a bit of time scooping them out, and you estimate there's probably like 500 like small silver pieces in here. They're not your sort of modern silver pieces. They all appear to sort of be very thin, and they all have like the symbol of the sun like stamped onto them. And as you're sort of like rooting around and you're sort of pulling out all this silver, you find what appears to be a small like clay vial with like a little stone stopper in the top of it.
Is there anything on the clay, like on the outside?
Nope.
Okay. But you can hear like sloshing
Yep.
inside? Okay. Probably handle that with care, and I'll give it out to either Leo or Cameron, whoever like puts their hand out.
I'll definitely take it because I have no fear.
Yep. And I'll get out like my my other shirt, and I'll make a bag. I'll start scooping the silver in.
That's fine. Now bear in mind a standard backpack can only hold like 400 coins.
I have a standard backpack actually, so I can take 400 of them.
Oh yeah, and I have a backpack as well. So yeah.
Okay, so
we can
yeah,
split it.
you guys split them down. You put like 200 in each backpack.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Okay. Was there other rooms down here as well to explore?
Okay, let me just move you back onto the appropriate map. See if it manages to load itself up before the ice decides to slide southwards again.
Oh no.
Okay, so you guys know that to the north of you, so sort of like here-ish, there was the two metal doors with the keyholes in. You didn't explore to the north, the bottom of the stairs.
Okay.
Obviously, you're not in combat turns, so feel free to move yourselves.
So I guess I'll move around and see what's up to the north.
Okay. So as you look northwards, you can see what appears to be like a sort of thin sheet of ice on the floor here, which is marked in grey, and it looks as though on the floor is another one of these sort of like inlaid suns, although the sort of like the spokes of the sun, the like rays of the sun, have been chipped and damaged, leaving just like the sort of circular, sort of slightly raised centre of it.
Okay.
And there is a door to the east and west.
And can I walk across this ice? It's just like a sheet, is it?
It's just like a sheet of ice.
Okay.
You're looking through it, you see like the stone underneath. It must have been like that. There was like a leak in here at some point, and it's frozen. You have to move a little bit slowly over it, but yeah.
Okay. And then I guess I will try and open this door on the east.
Okay, not a problem. So this door, obviously because of like the expanding and contracting, this door is sort of quite fast in its frame. If you want to try and force it open, you will have to make a strength roll.
Okay. Like a open stuck door or a straight strength
Stuck
roll?
door.
Success.
Okay, no problems. You open the door into a chamber beyond, and in the sort of northeast corner you can see what appears to be the scattered remnants of someone long dead. Their bones sort of scattered all around the chamber. The bones look ancient. They must have been here for a long time. And you see this chamber's pretty well worn. There's like cracks in the walls and the ceiling.
Okay. And if I could look through the bones, is there anything kind of shiny or standing out, or is it just like a pile of bones?
Okay, you pick your way through the bones. There's not really anything of great interest, and anything that was fabric or flesh has long since rotted away.
Okay. So then I think I'll head north and have a look in here and see if I can see anything.
Okay, you move into the room beyond, and you can see what appears to be a stone sarcophagus of some kind. It looks relatively plain, but it's like your standard sort of coffin size, but it's made wholly out of stone with like a large sheet of stone on top of it as the lid.
Okay.
There's no sort of ornamentation or decoration on it.
Okay. And if I walk up to look at it, is there any kind of writing or any sort of... No. Okay.
No, it's plain.
So since I'm on my own and I'm super brave and super greedy, can I try and push the lid open?
Maybe a strength roll. There's a large sheet of heavy stone.
Ooh, fail.
Okay, you try pushing it, but it's just too heavy.
So I call out to Weimar, hey, look what I found. Give me a hand with this.
Okay, so you hear a voice from sort of somewhere through here.
Yep.
So it's shouting out to you like, hey, go on, give me a hand. And as you move through...
I'll wander in.
Yeah, as you move through and you look to sort of like your left, you can see Cameron sort of stood in this room to the north of you. He's like over this stone sarcophagus trying to like push this stone slab off it.
Okay. Are you sure we want to?
We should definitely see what's in it.
Okay.
It's during the day. We shouldn't rise during the day if it's anything like what we've seen.
Yeah. Let's hope that's what the rules are for these, whatever these are. I just keep the torch close.
Okay, so if you make a strength roll, I'm going to give you a -4 bonus because obviously you've got Cameron helping.
Yep. Oh, I'm doing the pushing. Okay, so let me. So I don't know if this is where you put it, but I'm gonna put a threshold modifier of -4 on my thing.
Let's give it a go, see how it works. Yeah, that's done it. That's worked fine. Okay, so with the two of you heaving, you push this stone aside. As it crashes to the floor, it reveals an empty sarcophagus. There's like a bit of bone dust in there. But sitting in the centre of this dust is what appears to be a large iron key.
There were... What was there? 1 or 2 keyholes on the...
Two.
On the 2. Okay.
That's disappointing, I'll say, as I pick up the key. I wonder if this is for the door that we passed.
Yeah, it might be. Now, I wonder if it's 2 locks for that key or 2 keys. I suppose let's go see.
There is another room just across the ice as well.
So while this is going on, what's Leopold doing?
I just wanted to have a look at this tapestry, John, on the south wall,
Okay.
where I'm stood.
Okay, so it's very faded. There's bits of it missing, but it appears to show a group of people. So it's almost like Bayer tapestry. You get like different bits of it. You see, the first sort of image appears to show like a group of people. The second appears to show that group of people like separating into 2 groups of people. The third sort of image, which you can only just make out the final image, shows just like one of those groups, and then sort of like some like mountains near them as if they're like heading towards some mountains.
Okay. And then now that I've had a look at it, I just want to have a little poke around behind to see if it's concealing anything.
Okay, you have a poke behind it, and as you're sort of looking around, you find behind the tapestry is what appears to be like set in the wall is another one of these suns, but this one appears to be made out of silver, but it's like set into the wall.
Can I try pushing it to see if it does anything? Or
You push it, it gives a little bit, like it's sort of loosened in its fixings, but it doesn't appear to like activate anything.
does it look like I could? Does it look like it's real silver that I could like salvage out of the?
It looks to be real silver in your expert opinion.
I'm gonna prize it out if I can.
Okay, that's absolutely fine. You prize it out. It takes you a little while, but you've now got this like silver sun. It's about sort of like this size. You sort of it's like a disc with like the spokes coming out of it. You're like holding it in your hand. You think it's probably worth at least like 200 silver.
Stick it in the old
Okay,
stash.
not a problem. Okay, so
And then wander off in search of companions.
okay, no problems. So like I say, you're not in combat rounds, guys, so feel free to like keep moving yourselves. Okay, so Leopold, you come across Cameron and the merchant Buchanan in this room with like this slick of ice on the floor. You see Cameron's heading over towards a door in the west wall.
So again, I'm trying to pry this door open or push this door open if I can.
Okay, again, it's a stuck door, so you need to make a check for that.
Okay, that's another success.
Okay, not a problem. You heave the door open, revealing another stone chamber beyond. The temperature in the chamber beyond, as you're sort of moving in, appears to like drop noticeably, and as you shine your torch around, to the north you can see another chamber with sort of ice on the floor and what appears to be another one of these stone sarcophagi in there.
Okay. Okay, and can I see something to the south as well? Is that another door?
Yeah, you can see the two sort of like metal doors with like the 2 keyholes in.
Okay. Okay, so again, I want to try and lift the lid off this sarcophagus on my own.
Yeah, you heave the lid off, and similar to the previous one, there's a metal key in the sarcophagus.
Okay. Okay. So I'll take the key. And then I'll see if the keys fit into the lock of this door and see if this door opens.
It takes a bit of fiddling, but yeah, like you put the 2 keys in the 2 locks, you turn them, and the door creaks open.
Okay.
and you see it leads into the chamber on the other side of the iron gate. You expect from what you've found being down here that obviously people didn't normally go through like the iron gate. They sort of went round and they would have come down through these metal doors. Perhaps this was once where the throne was like a ceremonial area. You know, that like you're only allowed into for like ceremonial purposes, so you had to have like the 2 keys to unlock the door.
Okay, well, John is going to sulk now because there wasn't any gold after all of that, which is the way of teenagers. And then I'll go back and I'll whinge at Weimar about how I went through all that effort and it didn't open anything and it didn't lead anywhere. And what am I supposed to do? 2 stupid iron keys and so on and so on and so on.
Yeah, so Weimar, John's there and he's basically like, oh my god, it's so unfair. There was no gold. Oh.
You still have the keys though.
Yeah, I'll hand the keys across.
Yeah, he gives you these 2, the like big old like, iron keys.
Yeah, I'll hold on to them for later. Okay.
They may make, be able to melt them down and make something useful with them.
Yeah, or if we have cause to come back here, it might be useful to have them.
So basically, Leopold, after finding these 2 keys, Cameron opened these double metal doors just to find that they led back to the area you'd been in with like the tapestry. And he's now sort of he's handed the keys over to like in a bit of a huff to Weimar, and he's bitterly complaining about the fact that like, oh, it just led me back to where I was before. There was no gold.
Oh dear. Well, it's not that easy to find gold, my young friend.
No.
My people have spent generations trying to find gold.
Okay, so what's the plan, guys?
I guess we kind of want to hightail it, right, and get this guy across to this new trading post before dark.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll move us all back to the main map.
John, would you say that was about an hour?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Write down a single touch. Go.
Okay. So it's sort of like late afternoon by the time you guys are sort of emerging from this like ruined temple. From what Hercules has said, it's about 18 miles or so to this gathering place.
How many miles can we do a day?
You can do a princely 18 miles a day.
Oh,
okay.
Because obviously, like, you would be able to do like 24 if you were carrying like no gear.
no, okay. Yeah.
But we're carrying a lot of gold, a lot of silver.
Yeah, you've got a lot of silver and a lot of like stuff. So.
Okay, so if it's early evening, we could probably travel for 6-ish miles before nightfall.
Yeah, that'd be about
okay.
right.
So I suggest we move 6 miles away from the very scary dogmen, and find somewhere.
Head for the river. Head for the river.
Okay, so you guys travel 6 miles northeast to the river, and then presumably you're making camp for the evening, basically.
Yeah.
Get some lines out. Get a spot of fishing in.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll do some foraging for fish and whatnot as well, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Make your foraging roll.
It's a miss. Fortunately. I guess we'll just have to eat dried rations.
Yep, so you'll all need to consume 1 ration. And obviously someone will need to like give a ration to Buchanan because he's not got any of his own food. Because Leopold's got it all.
I'll give him his ham.
Okay, yeah, so cross the ham off. He's at that.
Mind you, there's £4 of it. That's quite a lot of ham.
He does love ham.
He goes.
What I'll say is, I'll effectively say, if you cross the ham off, that's you and Buchanan sorted. Should we eat it
All
between
right,
you?
yeah, we'll have a little feast.
Yeah. You're like settling down, and you're like, well, I suppose there's only one thing for it.
Bust out the ham.
That's it. It's ham time.
It's hamming time.
Okay, so you all settle down for the evening. Presumably, you're all like taking watches, etc., as normal. Buchanan offers to take a watch as well. So let me make a roll to see whether anything happens. Okay, something does happen. So let's see whose watch it's on. I'll roll a d4. If it's 1, it's Leopold. 2, it's Cameron. 3, it's Weimar. 4, it's Buchanan. All right, it's Buchanan. Right, okay, let me just see what happens then. Boom, boom, boom.
I do like a classic old hex map. Something. There's a bit of nostalgia there.
That's it, man, exactly. Okay.
Getting all starry. I'm getting all starry-eyed.
Nice. I see what you did there. Okay, so you guys are sort of, because Buchanan takes the last watch. You guys are sort of all like sleeping away. Your watches have passed uneventfully. When you're awakened in the morning by this sound of like, ah! Ah! Ah!
Okay.
I guess that's as good as we get. For...
And as you look around, you can see sort of like by the side of the river is what appears to be like a crude fishing rod. Like perhaps Buchanan had like got a stick and put some string on it, maybe put a little bit of ham on the end of it, and he was trying to like get some fish or something. And as he's like flailing around, he's shaking his arm around. You can see there's like a fish with like sharp teeth like attached to his forearm, and he's trying to like he's sort of as he's trying to like shake it off.
So I'll just go across and grab it off him and then smack it off a stone nearby.
Okay, you grab the piranha off his arm. Like as you pull it off, it like leaves like takes like a small chunk of his arm with him. He's like, and then you just like smack it on the floor. Obviously, that kills it.
Okay. Is there enough fish on it to eat?
Yeah, it'll do for one ration.
Oh, nice.
Hercules flavored though.
Yeah. You see, he sort of like he rips off a bit of his sleeve and he like wraps it around, and he's like, oh, thank you. Since everything was so quiet, I thought I'd try and do a spot of fishing, you know, maybe make you fellows some breakfast. It'd be the least I could do. And well, I thought I saw something glinting in the water, and as I leant forward, that thing leapt out of the water and latched onto my arm.
Yeah, you might want to burn that. I'll point at the bit where he got bit.
He says, I don't have anything to burn it with. Are you sure that's necessary?
I'm not saying it's necessary. It's just you might want to do that.
I don't have anything to burn it with, I'm afraid.
Okay, yeah.
Well, I have a Bowie knife, so I can burn it, steal it for you if you wish.
He nods and he's like,
I'll get like my shirt that I'm not using as a bag for the coins now. I'll get the shirt, like twist it up, and it's like, you might want to put that in your mouth. Like
he's like,
yeah.
And he's like holding his arm. He sees his arm shaking a bit. He's like,
yeah, I'll help him.
Yeah.
So I'll put the knife in the fire, get it like red hot, and then kind of hold it by the hand and then touch it really quickly.
Yeah, you touch it on and he's like,
Yep, that'll do it.
and you hear the like, as you seal the wound shut. Obviously, it goes like a little bit pale with the like shock of it.
A little bit shaky.
Yeah, but as you take like the shirt out of his mouth, he's like, "Oh, thank you."
It's gonna be awful, but try this, and I'll get like a small thing of some of the fat that we gathered from the bear creature. Like put some of that on it. Like let it go for a while, but then put the grease on it.
Okay. And over the next like hour or two, he gets a bit of bear grease on it, and he slowly starts to regain a bit of his colour.
You realise he's just basting you in preparation to devour you later today. Self-basting dinner.
He sort of he laughs a little bit when you say that, but in that sort of slightly nervous laugh where it's you're joking, right?
Yeah, I'm joking.
I do like
joking. He's not really a cannibal.
I do like a rabbit on the spit, but that's not what
you
we
draw
do.
the line at merchants.
He says, "Oh, that's a relief. Now it's daylight. Perhaps we should get moving."
Yeah.
Well, at least you've discovered the hazard that lurks in the water.
He says, "Yes, I shan't make that mistake again." He says, "We best get a move on him. The wind's starting to pick up again."
All right. Yeah. Let's pack up and go.
Have we got a river crossing strategy?
We left it back at the river split, so no.
Okay, probably don't want to swim.
No. And we're too far away from a forest to make a canoe.
Well, we could just head north and go around the head of the river.
As you're sort of looking out the river, sort of going, where we're going to cross, etc. You can see a number of sort of silvery, dart-like shapes swimming around in the river, and you think, looking at the sort of slightly pulped fish you've got, that there's more of them in the sort of river, sort of swimming around. Possibly the sun shining on their scales was what Buchanan saw when he was like, "Oh, I wonder what that is."
Yeah. We'll give that a miss. I feel we should move north, and that's still getting us in the general direction, but maybe there'll be a better place away from these bitey fish.
Yeah, and it won't get much narrower as it gets closer to the source, right?
Well, hopefully.
And eventually there's going to be trees.
True. Very true. Okay, so you head north for 6 miles. The ground starts sloping upwards. You can see the mountains to the north of you, the land's rising up. However, the bottom of the sort of mountains, which is where you are, is covered in these sort of tall, thin pine trees that have a dusting of snow on the top of them. They're sort of wavering slightly in the wind that's starting to build up.
Does the river seem any narrower here, or is it still the same fast flowing?
Roll me a d6.
Five.
Okay, yeah, you do indeed. Although it's not sort of uniformly got more narrow, you do find a point where, due to rocky outcroppings, etc., it's a lot narrower. There's not any rocks going across it as a convenient sort of ford or anything like that, but you find a point where there's two sort of rocky outcroppings, and you're pretty sure that it'd be fairly easy to jump between those rocks.
Okay, so I guess I'll run and try and jump across and see how I get on.
Okay, no problems. Make me a strength roll.
Oh no. I guess I go swimming again, lads.
It's fine. It's very narrow. Basically, anything but a 20 you won't grant. So
okay.
you hop over it fairly easily. The rocks sort of shift a bit unnervingly as you land on the other side, but you're but you steady yourself and you're all right. Who's next?
I was thinking we toss a rope now that Cameron's over.
Yep. You look across, and as you're thinking it, Leopold's already got a rope out, and he's just finished tying himself off.
Yeah, not a problem. Throwing the rope over to like camera and tying yourselves off. It takes you a little while, but you're all able to make your way safely across this narrow gap. There's one sort of slightly sort of like heartbeat skipping moment where Buchanan, who's like not massively physically fit, jumps over and he sort of stumbles a bit, but thanks to the rope and the sort of like the harness system you've set up, you manage to like pull him across, and it's grand. Eventually, you're all stood on the other side, and Buchanan's like moved a bit ahead, and he points down sort of like over the ridge of one of these sort of like mountains, and he says, "It's just down there." And as you sort of follow his outstretched finger, you can see maybe like 5-6 miles to the northeast what appears to be a small sort of slightly less mountainous area. There's still hills, but it's less mountainous, and in the middle of it you can see like a number of sort of hide tents that have been set up, and there's a few wagons, and there's people like moving around talking to each other. You're too far away to hear them over the wind what they're saying, but you see people talking to each other, moving in and out of these tents.
Okay. I guess we should go and see what they have to say for themselves.
Well, that looks like the place.
Okay, and you start moving down the mountainside into the hilly area towards this gathering place of merchants and potential tradespeople. And that is where we're going to draw a close to the session for this evening. Thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And if you give me a moment,
That's
I'll
cool.
just tot up the XP. So,
The merchant moot.
Yeah, it turns out they had a whole thing going here.
okay, so you all get